I loved what I heard in that one.
Thank you.
My happiest.
Hmm.
Hi there, and hello to everyone. My name is Michael Dolph, and I'm the volunteer and executive council member of AARP California. And I want to thank you all for attending this conversation hosted by AARP California. We're recognizing Black Music Month this year with a month long menu of activities we want you to not only register for, but also invite other family and friends to register. It is our opportunity, it's our delight to be able to do this. ARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization for people 50 plus. Mind you, I said 50 plus, not 70, not 80, not 90, 50 plus, whose vision is for a society in which all people live with dignity and purpose and fulfill their goals and dreams. In California, we're focused on developing livable communities for all ages. To learn more about this and other work AARP is doing at the national, state, and local levels, please visit www.aarp.org/CA. To learn more about what AARP is doing for California and Black Music Month, please visit www.aarp.org/Black Music Month, where you can register for more conversations, concerts, and a special June 18th presentation about Juneteenth. So, we're continuing our conversation with Black music artists and executives about the impact of the Black community on the music industry. And today we are joined by the amazing and fantastic pianist, Tammy Hall. Welcome, Tammy.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be here with you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, there is so much to learn about you. In fact, I've got 12 and a half pages of your bio. Um, and we're going to touch it on pieces that you've done so much. Uh, the story of your music journey is just so incredibly interesting. And I want to talk about that too. But first, let's talk a little bit about Black Music Month and what it might mean to you as an artist.
I would. I'll say that every day, as in Black History, every day is Black History. Every day is Black Music Month. That's what it means to me. Period.
You know,
Yeah.
I love that response. It's the one I'm always thinking. There's
Mm-hmm.
February and June, and then there's January, March, April. But
Yes,
anyway,
April for
uh,
jazz, but
all
every
of those
day.
things that happen every single day. And
Yes.
you know, I looking around at what we're listening to, and you know, my dad's gift to me as your parents and grandparents were to you were my ears and developing my ears. And the one thing I say many times is that as I was growing up, my had no particular love for trying to put music into genres and classifications. He always said to me, there are only
Hmm.
two types of music: good music and not good music. And that's the
Yes.
way it's been done. And it's been through those years. And so, and similarly, in your growing up and developmental years, your family had an incredible impact upon your growth as a musician. And I don't want to say getting to the business because music
Mm.
isn't business. Music is creativity and expression and
Hmm.
communication. So I have to be careful never to refer to it as a business. But tell me a little bit about your growing up, your introduction.
I started playing the piano when I was 4 years old, and I didn't know my mother. She died a year and a month after I was born from leukemia, but she wanted to be a concert pianist. So that much I absolutely do know. And her mother raised me, and on my father's side, my grandmother and grandfather were also very attentive to my ability before having taken any lessons. Um, I could hear anything, and if I wanted to hear it again, I could go and pick it out on the piano myself. So that could be something I heard in it, cartoon music, something on the radio, something at church, and I could just come home and play it if I wanted to hear it again, which I know is it's a great gift. It's a great gift to have. And I started studying piano, classical music at age 8 up until I left Mills College in 1981 after 2 years, and really wanted to pursue jazz and not have to justify my presence in any genre of music. Having grown up, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, went to a very exclusive all girls school, played in juried competitions for classical music. And invariably, someone would always ask me, "How is it that you can play this music?" It's like, "What do you mean, this music? It's music." you know, I don't care if it's Mozart or James Brown, or Nathaniel Dett. It's music, music is the thing I continue to find out that I am made of. I cannot leave it. It chose me, and I'm so grateful that I can be here and share that. That's my raison d'être, if you will. And I found it. It found me very early. At 5 years old, I declared that I would never get married, but would always be a good working musician, and that's held true to age 60 now.
You know, and you mentioned being able to walk over to the piano, and I know I didn't give you a warning about this. Um, Quite often, we hear references to perfect pitch and pianos, and
hmm
how a prodigy, um, and I quote use that quotations, how prodigy can take what they hear, whether it's perfect pitch or something close to perfect pitch, and translate it to a piano. How
hmm
how would you describe that process for you?
It was really one step, or two steps. I heard the music. It's somehow I've consumed it into every part of me, and I walk over to the piano and I play it. That's however it's going to come out, and I hear the full orchestration. So I'm going to try to play everything that I hear, between these 10 fingers. So that's really how that's my process. In later life now, later in this, in in learning about theory, etc., I know how to write arrangements of songs. But even now, if I hear a song and I want to play it, I I hear it, take it in, and then I sit down to the piano, and the arrangement is already there. It's nothing
Um,
to labor over. I'm sorry to
sure.
say,
Well,
you
and
know.
that kind of a few moments ago we were talking, and in the conversation we kind of talked about allowing music to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about one particular piece, in a sentimental mood, and there's a
Yes.
different version that we're very familiar with. But that I think is some of the beauty of what you do. It's not work. It's it's part of what you do. You talk a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about that, and I don't mind if your fingers are noodling while you're sitting at the piano.
Yeah, I'm concerned if it's sounding muted.
We're okay.
So talk about what I do. Um, well, I'm a teaching artist with SF Jazz. I also give private lessons sometimes to ages 4 and up, and I love working with the extremes of those of that range of ages, because I think the earliest The earlier that you start a relationship with music, the better your life will be. If you are my age and older and reconsidering a relationship with music, I say go for it. It's not ever about perfection, but it is about having a really intimate relationship with this form of expression that I think we're all capable of. Be it humming, from humming to singing to actually sitting down and trying to play a scale. You know, the grooves in your brain might become new again, you know, or it might make some new grooves in your brain. It certainly opens up your heart, or just the feeling, that feeling of accomplishment of having played a scale or having played a chord, and uh having patience and kindness with yourself, to just go, if you have the piano or a keyboard, and to allow yourself some whimsy and to go and try to pick a song out that you really like. And don't worry about, you know, simple or difficult, or that's easy or that's cheesy. I love cheese. You know why? Because it's something we really like. You know, people tell us you gotta cool it on the dairy. It's, you know, it's too much fat, but this is the stuff that makes us feel good. You know, during the pandemic, um, last April of 2020, I started doing a live stream on Facebook, a 2 hour live stream, just for people to come in if they wanted to, and to listen to music, be able to put your shoulders down and feel that you were loved for 2 hours, that you didn't have to think about anything else. And I had a segment called More Cheese, Please. And so you could ask for, you know, songs by Bread, any, you know, any great love songs by Barry Manilow, whatever it was. If I knew it, I'd be happy to play it, because that's the stuff that makes every cell in your body smile. It's the stuff that makes your heart and muscles relax. That's the stuff that makes you feel floaty and good. It helps to release those endorphins when you hear, or experience things that you really like to. That's, you know, I love being a musician because every day I have access to this music. Every day I have access to the thing that that makes me live. And that's wonderful. It's not a job. It really is my living. It's my living.
Sure. I loved your association with the endorphins. Um, that is exactly it. There's the opportunity, if we let it as listeners, uh, to not just enjoy it, but to experience it as well. I mean, the release of endorphins, just this beautiful, beautiful opportunity to really sit and listen to something. And there's music that gives us these, and I'm thinking a little bit, because you spent a lot of your developmental years in church.
Yes.
And I think people, well, and I don't want to be unkind.
Mhm.
There's a presumption. There's a
Mhm.
presumption, for instance, in gospel church and black churches, that that kind of music is the kind that kind of sets a direction for you, but doesn't necessarily get to the next level in incorporating that those different kinds of music. And I don't want to get too techy or nerdy for our listening folks. Uh, but as an example, and let me ask you, and again, I'm putting you on to take that influence and the blending with other influences. I'm thinking of Hallelujah Samba as one of those, which I
Mhm.
thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy. And I could hear them both. I would not have expected that until I heard you do that. And I've listened to lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of music.
Mhm.
That was truly a new one for me.
You know, samba and gospel. Well, let me back up. The great pianist and composer Mary Lou Williams said that the roots of jazz music is American in that it's based upon Black people's suffering in this country, Black people's suffering and bloodshed, death and resilience, the horrible story of slavery in this country. Agreed. Nina Simone says jazz has its origins in Africa. Now, they disagreed with each other, but we know the point of reconciliation. And it goes back to Africa, and then it goes to the diaspora. We are all over the world. So it and when you talk about the origins of jazz in the United States in particular, there is a conventional wisdom that wants to separate jazz from blues and gospel and spirituals and work songs, field songs, shouts and hollers, moaning. So we're at moaning. Let's start at that root and then come forward. It's all the same music. R&B, jazz, blues, gospel, spirituals, they come from the same root. So anyone who would tell you that blues has nothing to do with jazz or vice versa, they are ignorant or they are willfully lying. And I'm really adamant about that because we know the truth. You know the truth. Samba is African in origin and then incorporated some other musical stylings of European, Portuguese people, and also indigenous people in Brazil. And it made for this heavenly combination of music. Um, the Western European classical tradition, in terms of chord structures or harmonies, here's a one chord, here's a four chord. Those, those are two chords, one and four, and that chord progression is in almost in every genre, if you have to have a genre of music that exists. From so a samba uh, or a blues or the Ray Charles song or I ain't got nobody that I can depend on or Oye Como Va. The one and four is omnipresent. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Um, so Hallelujah Samba is it's that acknowledgement. It's just the way it all comes. It brings it all together. They are not disparate parts. Church samba, why not? I go to the Church of Samba, and I love samba music. I could start my day with samba music. I love it that much. I hope that
I
kind of answers the question.
Oh, it certainly
So,
does. And not only did it answer the question, there was some insight there as well. I think probably um, just in comparatives or acknowledgments that we might not have considered just as well.
mm,
My friend Robert Kyle does a lot of work in summer music down here as a woodwind player as well as Scott
mm.
Mayo. And I think I just got the secret from you.
Okay,
Now I now I know why
good.
I said now I know not only
Mm.
I enjoyed it, but I understand it better. And I'm starting to see where those connections are. It is wow. I have to tell you, I teased Joy a little while ago. I said we could do this for 3 or 4 hours. Who knows?
Mm,
Ha- Talk to me,
mm.
talk to us. a little bit. I mean, you've done so many things on your own, but you've also been a go-to person for a ton of vocalists, folks who just seek you out. Um, and I know why, because not every musician is a good at, and I don't does well in blending that. You've worked with some of my favorite people in the world. Can you talk about some of them? And I won't pick any. I'll let you pick them.
Oh, well, we talked a little bit about Ernestine Anderson, um, who's, she's one of those vocalists whom I say is one of the most wonderful vocalist who ever lived in the 20th century, because you could not separate her jazz from blues
Mhm.
or gospel or anything else. She could take a song and she made it hers, and the song was, and she was it. She was the song. Um, Etta Jones, another wonderful, and not Etta James. I did not have the privilege, but Etta Jones, and she was, some people considered her a flat-footed singer because she didn't do a lot of curly cues and not a lot of
Mhm.
scatting. She presented the song and imparted the story as the song related to her, and that's what any good vocalist will do. They bring you into their vulnerability, and that's, you know that might be a trade secret, but it's certainly not a contrivance. When you
Mhm.
sing, you could not be more vulnerable than singing and then imparting a story, when you have found where in your life you can relate to the song. That's why we would love to hear someone like Eartha Kitt, for instance, or Ella Fitzgerald, if you have experienced them live, or
Oh
Lena
yes.
Horne, that you would hear them, or Denise Perrier, for that matter. You would hear them, you might have heard them 20 years ago, and you notice that they have some of the same songs in their repertoire at, 20 years later, but the song is different because their lives are different. You've grown.
Mhm.
The song grows with you. You can decide to keep it or you can discard it. I like to keep them. They go somewhere in the wherever they go, and then every now and then something will push forward and I get to bring it out and look at it again. That's exciting. um Melba Moore, Mary Wilson from the Supremes. That was just, that was a big what? Really? And it was such a joy to get to work with Mary Wilson. I never even considered, and I have sometimes poo pooed Motown. I remember, being in college, and some people, I think, to make themselves feel more comfortable, would always, bring up Motown or start playing Motown music. Like, okay, there's a black girl in the room. Let's put on some Motown. It's like, really? Okay. In retrospect, I'll try to be I'll be more appreciative, but that wasn't the way to go necessarily. Humans are funny, in our messiness, but we will keep striving, right?
Mhm.
It's not about good intention. It's about knowing what is right, really. Um, a good, there are many great soloists, pianists, instrumentalists, but everyone's not an accompanist. And Michael, I love
That's true.
accompanying voices. I love accompanying beautiful voices, from Linda Tillery, to Kim Nally, whom I work with now, to Liberta Laurel, a a new friend, and I'm very excited about her. She's a wonderful classical soloist and making a foray also into jazz music. Another black woman, um, who has been trained in a very strict environment around classical music, but now starting to realize she can cross over, but the thing is to try to let go of those strictures so that you can just be about the music has no rules. The music never said, if you, if you sing music by Rossini, and if you sing music by Mozart or Verdi, you must call me this. You're an operatic, or you're a classical singer. If you sing, Lieder, uh, German classical music, this is what it is. The music never said that's what that is. Or if you sing, I feel good, you know, or if you sing something by Bessie Smith or Ma Rainey, that must be the blues. We do it. Our small brains can't handle that music. Is just such an infinite atmosphere. It's its own universe. Um, and also, it's for monetary purposes. Let's just get down to that truth as well. And it's exclusionary, but that's a whole other conversation. Um, we're talking about accompanying. I I love it as much as I like being highlighted in jazz festivals, etc., and for solo performances. There is nothing more fulfilling to me in music than when I have a wonderful collaboration.
The
It means everything.
Of course it does. I saw
Yeah.
some of you have a few videos online with you and Kim,
Mhm.
and what I thought was really wondrous, not just wonderful, but wondrous, was watching you vamp off each other and not, being comfortable in where you were going and
Mhm.
having enough confidence to know that you guys were in the same space, even as you changed directions, you were going there. To me, it reminds me of, and I forget which musicians, but I want to say Miles. It might not have been Miles, but one of the things to learn is to learn to be a great musician is to learn how to listen.
Absolutely. Cuz if you're just out there on your own trip, you're missing everything and you're probably not sounding so good. You know, if you're playing in a group of more than 2 people, and it's probably actually worse if it's just you and another instrumentalist or vocalist. Oh, that's awful because you're not listening. When your solo time comes in the song, that's when you get to be all about you. But otherwise, you're giving support, or what I like to say, you're laying a bed of roses for the soloist to to soar over and land as often as they see fit. You're about giving support and being in a conversation. This is a dialogue. It's a conversation that happens, and it is
Mhm,
that organic. And those moments of magic do really happen. That's the unrehearsed stuff when you might be in an offering, and two of you or two or more of you play the same passage, or you play the same
mhm,
kind of break in
mhm.
the song, and you look at each other really quickly like, yeah, that happened. And sometimes at the end of the song we might say, just like we rehearsed it, because you hadn't had a rehearsal. And that happens when you trust the people you work with. Love is also always in the mix, because it's the love of the music. You're either loving and serving the music, and you're loving the that you're offering. It's offerings, not performances. I'm not giving you a show. You're having. I'm inviting you into my life. Actually, I'm sharing my life with you, and they're offerings. They're offerings genuinely from my being, and so it's not. I'm not trying to impress, because God knows I am not a pyrotechnic, gymnast, musician. Someone's asking Bettina about vocal aerobics that take place. Those they've always been, and there's a place for them. Um, there's some things that occur naturally, and then there are other things that occur because someone says, "Come and take a scatting class," or come and learn East Indian music and learn ornamentation singing. I don't see a class given in davening. Um, you know, Sometimes I want to knock on Stevie Wonder's door and say, "Why did you do that?" Because everyone's trying to sound like you now. It doesn't work. Man, if it's not your flow, acknowledge that and be okay with it. because everybody can't do that. Everyone doesn't do that. Vocal aerobics, if you can do it, uh, it's like seasoning. You got to know how much to use. It's like playing music too fast. That's like too much pepper on food for me. When it's too hot, I can't taste the food. It's like, well, what am I eating? So when it's going too fast, I don't know what that song is, or if someone's, making miasma and not melisma, then I can't recognize a vocal quality. All I hear is contrivance and
Mm.
trying to impress. Um, I don't have anything to prove, and I feel sorry for those performers who feel like they might have something to prove, or that's gonna bring them in when they see how wonderful I am at doing this. Look what I can. It's like, no, it's a, it's about the music. It's about the music in the end.
It's always about the music. I remember a vocal teacher who once told me that aerobics made up for the fact that you couldn't hold a single note for 2 bars. Um,
That's
um,
mean.
I know that was kind of mean. I
Uh,
probably shouldn't have said that. But and by the way, it's hard. It was such a gorgeous analogy when you said bed of roses, and I'm thinking of a stage now with just a piano and rose petals all over the
mm.
entire stage. I don't know if I can copyright that for
You should, because I'm going to, the first opportunity I get, Michael, I'm going to do that. But I will give you credit for artistic
no,
direction
no, you said it.
at the
You
stage name.
said it. You're the one who put that
Well,
that picture there, but there was such a
that's
gorgeous analogy. And I could see it and I could get it. I love the way you put that because that's
mm,
kind of what it is about there. There's and you've alluded to it a couple of times. I mean, sometimes just being on stage and being open like that does expose you.
mhm,
And it's not exposing your talent; it's exposing who you are. Sometimes in your choice, even song choices kind of will say a lot about who the person is. Who they
mhm,
listen to will say a lot about who the person is. And I know that our audiences get a lot, and 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 I won't talk about percentages, but a lot of the audience get to. I want to hear that song. I want to hear that song. I want to hear that
yeah,
song, which isn't the same as I want to hear you. And
yes,
for artists like you and in the jazz world and other, and there I go using genres. I don't want to use genres, but at least in the world of sharing music, it is about hearing you, and the song is your vehicle, but it's still you. Um, and
yes,
then there are those other kinds of pairings, and as I'm segueing here into a different kind of pairing altogether, not the
mhm.
Ernestine Anderson or the Kim Talley or the Linda Tillery. And then there's the Laurie Anderson pairing.
Yes, that was
And
another. Wow.
and for those of you who
Yeah.
might know, Lori is, and I'm not sure this is a fair word to use. I know that for many years she was known as a performance artist.
Mhm,
And I'm not really sure that really described who Lori is. But Lori is totally unafraid when she's on stage about what she does and how she's going to do it and what she decides to use as an instrument.
mhm.
It is totally about being out there and doing something that we might not have experienced before. And talk a little bit about that. I would suggest that even as we talk about it, we can. It's not fully descriptive. You need to go on YouTube and find Tammy Hall and Laurie Anderson and see it for yourself. But talk about it a little bit still.
Okay. Um, Laurie Anderson is really really brave, because what she does so well is take a process, a thought process, an idea. You know how thoughts are running by, kind of like the zipper going by underneath us, the little banner zipper there. And she catches these thoughts, and then she writes this prose, and she puts music to that, and her instrumentation is usually her violin, electronic, and a bunch of some electronic equipment. And then she called me in for acoustic piano, and the event was called Music for Women. So she had a night of music for women and then a night of music for men, and that was with the wonderful drummer Scott Amendola. Um, but that she can take like this conversation and she could take that and put it to music, present it in a way. So she has a really great talent of taking um, sometimes what is perceived as minutia and or really mundane things, events in our lives, and amplifying them or elevating them or even illuminating them, and that so that they become another experience. One of her recordings, one of her albums, if I'm recalling correctly, is called uh, something like it's going to take an it takes an expert, or it's going to have to take an expert to do this thing. It takes an expert to do that. And just to hear that, so there's a story going on, and then that phrase kind of becomes a chorus, but she's recounting the story. um, she draws you in. She draws you in. There's no device. It's just that, here's the stuff that's always going by on our zipper brain, and that we just take for granted. And now I'm just going to present it to you. Did you ever notice that when you're walking, you're actually falling? And then you go, oh, yeah. And then you think about, that's what gravity does. But but then there's this other awesome discovery about the awesomeness of the way we're made, the mechanics of movement, how you're walking. And so there's a synchronization between the left foot and the right foot that just, if it weren't there, you would fall right over. So you're always defying gravity, just the action of walking. I love the way she would present that, you know, or something like a scream, or I no longer love it. I no longer love the way you hold your pen and pencil. Hmm. You know, Laurie Anderson is the only person I know who can pull that off. And it stuck with me. It stuck with me from the first time I heard that in 1987. And then I saw her in Europe when I was living there. I was living in Brussels. So to see her there, and then to fast forward to 3 years ago, um, in November of 2018, that we would be sharing the stage at SF Jazz. Who knew? Who knew? And she's really lovely. She's lovely. Lovely to be around, not ever assuming or presuming anything. She's just who she is, completely accessible. And that's what we all are.
That is amazing. That is just amazing. I hope she gets a chance to see this. You I mean, there were just so many nice things in that describing who Lori is, and I've watched her over the years
Mm-hmm.
in a number of things, and it's always been a discovery kind of thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I certainly appreciate her commitment and so on. So
Yes.
there's another thing that you've done that I'm that's very big for me, the Montclair Women's Big Band.
Oh
Of
yeah.
course, I love big bands. I do love big bands, and I've had some association over the years with a few other women's bands.
Mm-hmm.
My godmother was the late Clara Bryant, and
Oh
and I
yeah.
just got all the history of her work, you know, during the late 40s and 50s and so on, and
Mm-hmm.
then with that band and another friend down here in Los Angeles, Ann Patterson, who's had a women's big band for years that doesn't
Mm.
have as much opportunity to be as heard as they should be. So
Ah.
so it's I mean, I love the idea we need more. I mean, and I'm not don't mean more like we need more cowbell, but at least in the sense that we obviously need more big bands, and so talk about a little bit about that work with the Montclair Women's Big Band and how that's going.
Well, I am not working with the Montclair Women's Big Band right now, and haven't been for a while. It was,
Okay.
sometimes I was with them for more than a decade, and then it was time to move on. Um, but Ellen Sealing and Jean Feinberg helped to provide for me a great growing environment. I cut my teeth reading, and really honing my reading skills, um,
Mhm.
working in that band, and then really honing my craft of being part of a rhythm section,
Uh,
and understanding, continuing to understand its part in the engine of a big band. So people think it's all about the horns. Well, if you really like horns and brass, it's all about the horns. But nothing, but they are nothing without the rhythm section. That's just, I'm really not biased about it. Um, but the groove doesn't happen without that rhythm section.
exactly, I think one of the best examples of that is the Basie Big Band.
Mhm.
Um, and last name Green, I can't remember his first name, was the guitar player who very
Mhm.
simple just played, who on almost every single record, just did the force, da 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 da
Mhm.
da 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 entire tune. Never lost timing.
Chunka chunka.
Yeah, just the
Yeah.
whole thing, but just some beautiful chords and keeping the rhythm section together
Mhm.
during that
Mhm.
whole piece. And I always like putting on bassy records and just kind of segregating the guitar every now and then, just fit me because even Basie's drummer wasn't necessarily playing with the piano bass, as he was generally playing with the horn section, but the guitar was always there.
Mhm.
Guitar was always there. That's just some amazing things.
And a pianist's job in that mix is to figure out, well, who you gonna lock eyes with. I usually
Uh,
tap into the drummer who's listening to kind of listening between the horns and the bass player. And
mhm,
then the bass player is, I don't want to say is a time keeper, but if a drummer is playing fills and things and playing accents with horn section, there still has to be a grounding force that
mhm,
usually falls to the bass player.
sure.
And the pianist's job is to kind of find the balance between those three things going on,
Mhm.
as well as acknowledge some of the accents happening in the brass section, which, by the way, doesn't get written into charts. You gotta be you have to be so listening, and you got to know where you are in the music. It was much
Yeah.
easier to memorize the song. So then I'm not following, I'm not, my attention's not taken away from the band or from being 100% involved because I got to read a chart. That it would never work.
Mhm.
So I memorize the song, and then that gives you total freedom to be 100% present.
This someone just put it up there and they beat me
Hmm.
to it. Antoine just mentioned he just went through a master's class. That was exactly what I was about to say, that we just turned
Mm.
this conversation into a master's class. And I think for the listeners, that's the value of it. It is the one thing that I enjoy most is for listeners in conversations like this to be able to walk away with something like, wow, I didn't know
Mm.
that before. I didn't, or maybe I did. Some of it is history, some of it is, but some of it is a new way of listening.
Hmm.
Maybe that the next time they put something on their turntable or they're sitting and with a CD that they're listening a little bit differently than they listened before and discover some of the magic that's hidden in there. Discover
Yeah.
some of the space as you talked about earlier.
Hmm.
And every now and they hear um, just these amazing little things that happen from time to time in music. Wow. Wow. Oh my. Oh, I am so
Mhm.
happy to be here with you today, Tammy Hall. Um, now, and I don't, and I want to give it the other shout out because we've talked a lot about music and so on, but you've been involved with a number of charities in the Bay Area. And
Mhm.
I want to give you some time to talk about those a little bit because they are part of who you are too. The organizations that you support as well, and the things that are close to you. So at the very least, I wanted to give you just a moment to talk a little bit about who you're working with up there.
I always believe, even if someone didn't put their arms around you to kind of to help mentor you through whenever we're making it, and making it means it's not necessarily meaning that I make my living playing music, which is a fact. Um, but I live to play music, and I know I have also been given great opportunity. And that saying, "To whom much is given, much is required." That's not that's not an onus. It's not an onerous thing at all. It's a joy. And so, if when I can, I offer free lessons, or I work with other nonprofit organizations that offer music to children who may not otherwise have access. And if I can help get an instrument to them, or as I said, give lessons, or give a little, a class to a group of children, or work in a theater group like the Handful Players. It's a children's theater workshop that goes to different elementary schools in the San Francisco Unified School District. Um, my my biggest work right now is with SF Jazz in their education department, being a lead teaching artist, and we work with middle schools in the San Francisco and Oakland Unified School District. So we're very excited and also nervous about being on site again after a year and a half of not being in schools, but being able to be in the room with students. Middle grade is a really pivotal time in a human's life. You can change someone's direction and experience in life from sixth grade or even fifth grade forward. So, catching the kids now at fifth and sixth grade to let them know that it's still a wonderful world for all the horror that they're going through. And we get to remind ourselves, or I certainly get to remind myself, I still live in a world where I believe we can achieve the thing that works for everyone. And so to be able to impart that to children, and also to work with children, reminds us of the imaginations we had and the dreams we had, and that we can still have them and still pursue them. Um, I always believe in giving back, because what you do. That's what you do. And it's something, that's my desire. It That would never be not it would never be outside of me. It would be completely unlike me if I didn't. So
Well, even more
that's
than
it.
that, that's what you do. What I heard with that's who you are,
Mm, yes.
and I certainly appreciate that. That is another insight I'm enjoying. And I mentioned it
Mm.
way back earlier when we were just offline talking, and I have to bring it up because I'm such a big Jimmy Smith, Jack McDuff,
Ah,
Jimmy McGriff fan.
yeah.
So, do you get to do much with on Hammond these days? You've been playing Hammond B3?
I've not a lot. The last time I played was in 2019. I opened for Joey DeFrancesco at
Oh,
SF Jazz for the Organ Summit there, and so he was
mhm.
being honored. And the time before that, I was playing in a local watering hole in San Francisco called the Royal Cuckoo, and they had a Hammond A10 church
Mhm.
organ. But a Leslie makes any Hammond organ sound like a B3. And I have one. It sits at the Oakland Public Conservatory.
Uh-huh.
Um, right now it needs to be serviced, but it's sitting there, and once I get it fixed and up and ready to run, it'll be there for other for children, for anyone who's interested, who want to learn how to play that instrument. Um, it'll be there for them to have access. But I was playing for two churches by age 9, and that included playing the organ,
Mhm.
which I did. You didn't mention. I'm gonna throw in a couple of other names in here: Shirley Scott, Trudy
Yes,
Pitts,
yes.
Trudy Pitts, and Rhoda Scott. Rhoda Scott, the barefoot Contessa, if you
Okay.
will,
And
because she
and I'm
plays the pedals barefoot. Uh, and then Trudy Pitts, who really would get a sound from the B3 that I've never heard anyone else be able to elicit. And she's sorely missed. I met Trudy Pitts in 2008 at
mhm.
the Oregon Summit in San Jose with Peter Fallico. She was there. Atsuko, what's your last name? It won't come. But Atsuko from Tokyo, um, and Rhoda Scott was in the audience, and I was just bricks, sweating
Mhm.
bricks, if you will. Um, it was a great night, and it was a great honor to do that. So when I can, I will jump to the organ because
Mm.
it's I don't have the same relationship to it that I have with it that I have with the piano. It's a completely
Mhm.
different
Sure, yes,
animal.
of course.
Oh my goodness.
Of course.
Yeah.
But that is the beauty of and I think um, sometimes, part of that master class piece is that folks don't realize that playing an organ is entirely different. Only the keyboard is the same. Everything else is different, at least in terms of
Everything.
sound and approach
Yeah. And
and
there's no sustain pedal.
yeah. There's no sustain pedal, but
No.
I do remember because I got to see Jimmy Smith a couple of times, and I do remember that if you take a matchbook and you stick it in between the keys, you can hold the note while you do something else. Those little things I
Oh
saw
my
from time to
gosh.
time,
A
and
matchbook, really?
yes, yeah, I saw him do that. Just
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it would help hold, that one note that's just
Yep.
hanging and hanging and hanging, while he's running up and down other places. But yeah, you did mention it, and certainly Shirley Scott was just absolutely amazing, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
find Rhoda Scott. I haven't heard it, and of course I should mention Barbara Dinnerline out of
Barbara
Germany.
Dinnerline.
Yes,
Yes, I just have
yes.
recently heard of her.
Oh, Fit, I
Ah.
just totally enjoy her as well. Um, but it is a different instrument. So,
Mm-hmm.
one of these nights when you're on stage, I'm going to be in the room when your left hand's going to be on the grand piano and your right hand's going to be on the
Oh, yeah, I've done that. I've done that for yeah, gospel. The Kim and I used to have a gospel Christmas show
uh,
that that we offered at Feinstein's at the Hotel Nico in San Francisco,
mhm.
and a couple of times at Biscuits and Blues, which is another club here in the city, and a couple of times I've done that because had the piano here, and then the B3 was there, and I could you know go
Yeah,
between the two. Yeah,
because it's not like other keyboards where you could put the hammer, the B3 on
can't
top of the
can't
piano,
stack it.
and they're just in. And that
Not
gets
they
to be a
haven't figured that
little
out.
bit different. I mean, one of the popular, when I was a drummer back in the day, I think I got more gigs because I was the guy that had the van, and we had a B3 player in the band.
Oh yeah,
So it made me really
yeah.
popular as a drummer. Uh, but just those kinds of wonderful things. Um, we should do this again.
Sure, just
Oh,
tell
we
me.
should do
I'll be
this
here,
again. I mean,
Michael.
there's so much for folks to learn from you.
Hmm.
And Antoine's comment was exactly the same comment. This master's class that just happened to give people the opportunity not just to learn about Tammy Hall, but to get an idea what the music means. What's the value of the music as we move forward? And it's like it's in the song. It's in the song, it's in the music.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, all that love, as an example, is just the most gorgeous piece of music when you listen to it music rather than as a hit record. You know, there's a
Yeah.
different way you listen to. There's the hit record you listen to,
Mhm.
and you sing along, and it kind of goes with you, and then it's on to the next tune. But as a piece of music, just as you've done with your version of it, um, and I won't. Actually, I don't want to call it your version. Your awareness of the same song. I
Mhm.
think that's the fair
Thank
part to
you.
say. Um, because not everybody does that. Everybody, it's like the instrumental version of the same song. Well, I don't want to hear that.
Right.
I just don't want to hear the instrumental version. I want to hear some awareness, some insights into what the
Mhm.
song is, and the beauty of the melody as well. Um, Gee, this is so much fun. This is just so much fun. We could talk about so many other folks. The list is long. And I could just go through here and pick out what did you think about working with Darlene Love, and what and the variety. Etta
Yes.
Jones to Mickey Howard as another
Yeah.
example, who's
That's a
another
big jump.
fantastic vocalist.
She's a wonderful, natural vocalist. She could do
Hmm.
anything with her voice she wants. One of those people who could do all the curly cues. You
Yes.
know, that's it's like she can flow that way,
Hmm.
and it was a joy to work with her as well.
Oh, I can
Yeah.
only imagine. I still got goosebumps about Ernestine Anderson, and if
Mhm.
anybody is listening, I highly recommend uh, Ernestine Anderson and the Cat Pierce Big Band and her version of "Never Make You Move Too Soon." It is
I really
it's the most delightful version. She has it on one of her
Mhm.
albums, but this is the live version
Mhm.
with Cat Pierce.
I
Uh,
had the great joy of working with her at Jazz at Pearls.
uh-huh.
Um, Kim Nally took it over from Sonny Buxton and Pearl Wong,
Hmm.
and ran the club for 5 years. And Ernestine was a night with Ernestine was one of the greatest gigs I ever had to play with her, uh,
Hmm.
for 3 nights. And I had a jazz camp to go to, and I got sick, Michael, because it was such a come down from working with her. But I won't go further into that. Only I just want to say being able to accompany her on a song like Never Make Your Move Too Soon,
Hmm.
and the stories that just kept coming. The song
Oh,
never
yeah.
ended, which was fantastic. You just that tag just keeps going because she's got you wrapped. Or a song like Only Trust Your Heart, which
Ah.
is a beautiful song. And she knows a bossa, like a soul bossa beat.
Hmm.
She just sits right in it. And all you want to do is play for her. I never wanted anything to end. It's like, oh, we got to end it now? Okay, we take another chorus, not another solo for anyone. I just wanted to hear her continue to sing.
Mhm.
That's that's how wonderful she was. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. And how can I put this? Because I'm going to bring us someone who's not a vocalist,
Mhm.
but at the same time had such a melodic approach to his playing. David Fathead Newman,
Oh yeah.
Ray Charles's favorite player.
Mhm. I miss and I sorely miss him, and he was so generous with me,
Mhm.
Michael. It was he really he was so encouraging that he I used to have a measure of trepidation because all that old stuff about perfection or trying
Mhm.
to please, or I'm not bringing that thing. It's like, well, the thing you bring is you. And he
Mhm.
really did point that out to me, and he said, I wouldn't have called you, you know if I didn't think you had something to bring and something to say, and I always love him for that, for that. And he played beautifully and nothing to prove. He was
Yeah, he
in the
just played.
music,
He just
and you
played.
could
I mean, it
always
was.
hear gratitude in his music.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He just played. Just one of those voices, and a voice and a voice, even on a horn, a voice.
Mhm.
It's
Or the
in three.
flute.
Yeah, in three notes you could go. That's Fathead Newman.
Yeah.
Just his tone, the
Mhm.
tone of his voice on on
Mhm.
an instrument. That was just so amazing.
Here's a side note. My grandfather on my father's side taught him math at Lincoln High School in Dallas,
Mhm.
Texas. So
Really,
just how things, you never know who you're going to run into
you
in the
never
world,
know.
nor those intersections that happen.
Sure.
You
I
never
called it
know.
the five. I called it the 5 minute conversation.
Mm.
That if you ever have an opportunity to spend 5 minutes with somebody
Mhm.
in conversation, because we don't do that often.
Yeah.
Truly, we don't do that often.
Yeah.
You get 5 minutes that you'll find somewhere that connects.
Yes.
That is just so amazing. But because you're sitting at the piano, because you're
Yes.
sitting at the piano, um, you pick, you choose, you just tell us a little bit something about a particular piece of music that's special to you.
Oh.
I know there are a lot of choices, but just pick one out of
Wow.
them. Or better yet, let
um
your fingers do the walking. I don't
well,
know.
this is a really this is a standard. And if you don't recognize it at the end, I'll tell you what it is. And it's not that it's going to be unrecognizable. You just might not know the name of the song. Uh,
It's not the
that's
moonlight. I know the song, and of
Mhm.
course, it's when you're put on this on the spot when you can't remember the lyrics.
Not the pale moon that
It's
excites
that
me,
pale man that excites me. Yes,
mm, the nearness
that's
of
just
you.
the nearness of you. For some
Yeah.
reason in my head, I was thinking the makings of you. And I went, no, that's not right.
Mm.
Such a gorgeous song. There's
Yeah,
so many
it's
gorgeous songs
beautiful.
out there. Tammy,
Mhm.
thank you so much for this wonderful, wonderful conversation.
Thank you for
It
having
wasn't
me,
an
Michael.
interview, it was a conversation. It was such an eye opening conversation. It was such an experience opening conversation. I can't wait to get on a plane and get there to San Francisco or northern area and to be sitting in the first or second or third or fifth or even the 10th row at one of your performances.
You let
Um,
me know when you're coming, or I'll let you know when I'm playing, and let's make that happen.
thank
So
you.
you'll be in the first row.
Oh, thank you so much. And
Yeah.
I will bring my big ears. So on
Okay.
behalf of AARP and our celebration of Black Music Month, thank you so, so much for joining us this morning with this conversation with Tammy Hall. Go online, go to YouTube, go to Amazon. You can pick up Blue Soul or Blue Divine. And by the way, those two albums, why blue?
Blue's my favorite color.
Well, there you go.
It is.
There you go. Two wonderful albums. Those two wonderfuls, and a third, right?
Not
And
yet. Not
oh,
at,
not yet.
on the way. The
Okay,
third
on the
solo
way.
on the
Yeah,
way.
on the way. Blue Soul and
Mhm.
Blue Divine. They're both delightful albums.
Thank
And
you.
and on YouTube, you can actually Tammy will not only share the song, but she'll share her insights on the song as well.
Mm,
They're really nice videos to watch as well. Thank you so
thank
much,
you.
Tammy, and thank you
Thank
again for
you.
ARP California for sponsoring this event. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and look forward to us next week coming. We're going to be talking to Yvette Machon Devereaux in just a couple of weeks, who is the first Black woman to conduct the LA Philharmonic.
Mm,
And in the last part, and it has done so many wonderful things, including being the lead violinist in the Gerald Wilson Orchestra. And I can tell you the million stories that he told me about her when she was there. And Monday night, we're at KJLH Radio. We're doing an interview about the history of Sam Cooke. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. So everyone, enjoy your day, have a good time, and we will catch you later.
right on.